Hey everyone, my name is Will. I'm the CEO of Phonely, and happy Friday. If it's not Friday, you can pretend like it's Friday for this video because it's Friday for me. So I'm giving you a Friday. Today we're going to talk about post-call variables, actually all the different types of variables that come pre-built into Phonely's platform so that if you're ever curious about what a variable means or what it does, well, this video is for you. Also, the Help Center doc that's going in this video has them all listed out in a nice table, so you can view those right there. All right, so to jump into it, let's get into the platform and show you first off what the heck even are variables, where are they, and how can we use them both in a live call and a post-call setting. So, first things first, let's go find a variable. We're gonna add a talk block here so that we can just have some sort of canvas to build something on. I'm just gonna go over to the configure tab because I don't really need we just care about variables. All right, so first off, when we first get started, there's some pre-built variables that come with the call. The Phonely phone number is the number that the customer is calling. So whatever number you've bought on Phonely, that's that one. The customer phone number here is the number that the customer has called upon. So if I call in, that's my number that's being listed out there. All right, now under here we have some more advanced variables. Advanced variables are going to be anything that we are passed over from our telephony system. So we really usually don't see people using these a ton. These are pretty advanced, but we can do everything from the call start time, this is from our telephony system, to the call date, caller ID, caller city, which is categorized from the area code, zip code, all that stuff. So these are all variables that are passed through when the call connects, right up there. The next thing that we have are custom variables. Custom variables are something that you can define and then reuse over and over again. So for example, if I wanted to define an API key and I wanted to use it in every single request, well, I could do that and I could put my really fancy API key in here and then I add that variable. Now, every single time I add that variable to a block, that's going to be the same value. So where that's valuable is, let's say you're doing an integration, you want to have an API key, or maybe you want to reuse a value over and over again that's predefined without having to type it out every time. That is going to be a super useful feature for you. All right, the next feature we have is auto-gather variables. Auto-gather variables are kind of awesome, and the reason why they're kind of awesome is, let me just explain with one of these blocks. So let's say that you're making an API request. If you don't know what an API request is, it's basically like computer for you to communicate with the computer using AI, right? So we're making a request from our system to some other system to get information back. So appointment scheduling, we need to check with the software to check the availability. So let's say that we are doing that. We are booking an appointment right now. And to be able to book an appointment, maybe we'll put in our URL, we'll put our API key here, put our authentication in there that we just gathered in this custom variable. And then what we'll do is we will maybe add some query parameters and we'll do the name. And for the value, instead of having to predefine the value in a block before, so previously what you'd have to do is in a talk block, you say, ask the caller's name. Well, now what you can do is you can add an auto-gather variable that is going to gather that variable at the time of the block. Now, if you're like, what the heck is going on? I'm pretty confused. This doesn't make any sense. It's a little bit of an advanced feature, but it's very powerful because what it means is you don't have to have another block to gather the information. You can gather the information that you need for the API request right at the API request. And so why this is valuable? Well, this is valuable because you don't need to build as many blocks to do the same thing that you used to have to do in Phonely. So there's two ways of doing it, but AutoGather makes it quicker, makes it easier. And when you build API blocks going forward, this is a feature that's going to automatically be inbuilt into it, just so you know. All right, so in this situation, we're going to say the caller's name, and we're going to set that type as text, but we could also set it as phone number, email, et cetera, and then gather the caller's first name, for example. And we're going to make that required, and we're going to create that variable. And now that variable is now created, so we can add in the caller's name here. And then at runtime, this is going to, when it gets to this API request block on the back end, what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, what's your name, before making the API request. So you don't have to define an extra block here that's gathering the name. Pretty handy for that as well. All right, so that's pretty much everything for the API stuff. There's one more handy dandy UI trick that I will show you. Use the @ symbol to pull up all the variables here. And in this situation, you can pull up any variable that you need. You can also reference specific knowledge base documents if you want to reference those, reference the entire knowledge base just by hitting the @ symbol there. So that's another handy dandy feature with variables that I think everybody should know about and use because it's awesome. All right, now we've got variables done. We've got all the live call. Let's go into the post call variables and describe what those mean. So if you're unfamiliar with the difference between live call and post call actions, well, let me tell you right now and clear that up for you. Live call actions are basically anything that's happening during the call. Now, that's going to be maybe making an API request, sending a text message, sending an email, booking an appointment. All that stuff is going to happen live call. But after the call, if you want to, for example, send an email with the call recording and the call URL, you would probably want to know what all that information would entail. Like you need to have a summary of the call after it's done. So after the call concludes, well, you need to do something with it. But you only want it to trigger maybe after it gets to the appointment scheduling block, because then we know, okay, cool, the appointment was scheduled, so we want to send a confirmation email. Well, you can do that in Phonely just by attaching the post-call section here, which is this little node off to the right side. So that means that if the call ends here, they're not getting an email, but if it ends at this block or anywhere beyond it, they're going to get this email. Pretty handy way of you being able to distill out the difference between what's happening in the call and after the call. Now, we're talking about variables here, so I don't want to get too distracted. Variables. So let's show you some of the variables that we have available. Well, first off, we have all of the variables that we gathered in the conversation before. So even if the Phonely agent doesn't make it to this block, for example, this is a question block, maybe we'll just name this like name, pretend that's name. That variable is going to be here. So whatever they answer to that, that variable is going to be available. So what that means is basically no matter what stage you get to, you always have all the post-call variables options. The reason for that is because maybe the call ends after this name, and so we want to send that. And let's say that the call ends before we gather that name, well, it's just going to be blank, right? So what does that mean? That basically just means that when you're going through this, when you're building your Phonely agent, you will have the variables all available for you there. So like, yeah, just kind of handy as you're going through and thinking about this stuff. All right, so let's go through and then we have this other section. So we have all the variables that we gather here, some custom variables that we can pass through. We don't have the auto gather anymore because it's after the call, so there's no way for us to gather any more variables from the context. But we have this whole section called post-call variables. So I'm going to go through one by one what all those mean pretty quick, but this is going to be in a table as well. All right, Phonely phone number, same as before, which is the number that somebody calls into, so the number you bought on Phonely. Customer phone number is the customer's number, so the number that they called in on. The agent ID is this little thing right up here, but it is the same thing that is going to identify your agent, so it's the unique ID we give to it. The agent name is going to be whatever you named your agent, so I won't show it here, but if you go back, you'll be able to see what the name of your agent is. It's going to be that little thing on that switcher on the top left-hand side. The workflow ID you probably will never need, but it's going to be the workflow that you are on here. So each workflow that you have has an ID. The name is going to be this, so this would be test workflow. The transcript JSON is just simply the raw formatted transcript in JSON format for those who might need that. This is a summary that the AI generates. We have a detailed summary, which is a little bit more in-depth and more descriptive summary of what happened in the call. This is about 5 sentences, about 10 sentences. We have the call success. This is an AI detection that we use to detect if the call was successful at its task or not. It's using AI to determine that based upon what happened, so it's not fixed and it's dynamic every time. It's going to be yes or no. We have sentiment, which is going to be neutral, happy, frustrated, a few different options. I think it might be sad in there. I don't know. We have call topic, which is AI determined based upon whatever the topic might be. Call purpose, also AI determined based upon the purpose of the call. Key points is going to be a bullet point of between 3 to 5 different points that the customer mentioned on the call here, may be valuable for you. If there was any dates that were mentioned during that, we will gather a date that was mentioned there. If there was any times, we will gather those as well. If there's any emails, any names, we're going to gather those as well. So those are just like some general extractions that we do because a lot of times people want to know that information. If there's any questions that Phonely wasn't able to answer, we're going to populate that there. It's going to be a list of them. If there's a follow-up required by a human as determined by AI, which may not be 100% accurate, it will tell you that somebody needs to follow up with them because it's maybe not complete. If there is a reason that the customer needs a follow-up, it will populate the reason. If there are any action items or steps that you need to take, it would have those there. Keep in mind that sometimes the AI gets really excited about action items and it wants you to do everything. You may not need to do everything that it says. Call direction, inbound or outbound calls, that's what that means. The recording URL is simply the URL of the recording. So it's not the Phonely fancy view, it's just the general view of a recording. So you're going to click on it, it's going to be pretty boring, it's just going to be like a play button. The thing you're probably looking for, though, is the dashboard URL, which we'll get to into a second, which is when you click on this, it's going to basically pull up that call recording, so you can look at the transcript, you can look at text, you can look at a summary, all of that good stuff. All right, I jumped a little bit there. The transcript text is just the text without the JSON format, so it's just, AI, Phonely, AI, or assist, customer, Phonely, whatever, just that whole thing. The time that the call started, the time that the call ended, the date of the call in this format, the dashboard URL, which we talked about before, it's just that call history URL, the call ID, which is how we identify each specific call, so that's just a specific ID that we will use on our side. You probably don't need it unless you're logging this information for your own fun. The call duration, how long it lasted, the outcome, which is determined by AI, so what happened, did it book an appointment, did it need somebody? This outcome, just so you know, can be tagged by putting the information here. So if I tag the outcome, let's say I put in here like successful, and Phonely ends at this block. So it gets to this block and then ends. Then what it's going to do is going to say, okay, that was successful. So that is the call outcome there. Ended call reason is going to be why the customer ended. The options on that are customer ended the call was transferred, the AI ended the call, so Phonely hung up, and there's silence timeout is another option, which means the customer stopped responding. I think there's another one that's maybe greeting hung up, or voicemail detection if you're doing outbound calling. So those are the different options that you might have for a call outcome. The last block is the last block that Phonely made it to before it ended. It's going to be the name of that block. If you are running A/B tests, it will also allow you to pass over the A/B test ID and then the A/B test name and then the A/B test type. So these are just features for A/B testing. Most of the time, you will not need them. All right, that is the entirety of the Phonely variable tutorial, specifically focusing on what all of the variables inbuilt into Phonely mean. I hope that was helpful and gives you a better understanding of one of the most important features in Phonely's platform, which is call variables, and hopefully that tells you how to use them in the most effective way as humanly or AI-edly possible. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video all the way to the end. It got a little bit out of hand, but there's so much to talk about here and so much to build inside of Phonely. So thanks, and we will see you in the next one or in the next Help Center document if that is where you be. Until next time.